is Fantasy Football Picks and Bets presented by Prize Picks, NFL Divisional Round, props, injury report, and some DraftKings lower end plays to help you construct the rest of your roster. If you want to get in on Prize Picks right now, use code MMN at prizepicks.com or hit down in the description. You can find it down there as well, the direct link, because there is a fantastic offer this weekend that you're probably going to want to take advantage of. More on that in a second. Plus, runthesims.com. I'll show you the tools that I am using this week. It's completely customizable. And if you use code Mayo at runthesims.com right now, you'll get 50% off through the Super Bowl. So it's like $34.50, something like that. If you're playing some volume, best have an optimizer and projections at your disposal if you want to win the monies this weekend. Let's talk props, though, on prizepicks.com right off the hop. And let's just jump over. I'll show you what I mean about this gigantic giveaway. We're on the Prize Picks page right now. Let's go over to passing yards. Oh, what's this? Patrick Mahomes. Oh, over under 0.5 passing yards? Yeah, I think that's going to be a piece on almost everyone's play. So what you can do, it's only a max $20 bet on this at prizepicks.com if you use the Mahomes prop, but you can do something as easy as use Mahomes and pair him up with someone else and get 3x your money if that ends up coming through on your over-under, or try to go 5 plays and have a free square in there. You only need 4 of 5 correct in order to get paid on the flex play. You get paid 10x if you go 5 for 5. And really, you're really just trying to go 4 for 4 on this. So once again, prizepicks.com, code MMN, get you a match deposit of up to $100. And you can take advantage of this prop that's good up until game time as well. 99% off the actual 271.5. No, it is 0.5 passing yards. Code MMN at prizepicks.com. So we're going to be using that one as we go into it. And let's jump over to runthesims.com for a second. Use the DIY simulator, because there is one prop in particular that I do think that I want to target. I just want to make sure that we're okay here on the main slate. It's in the Rams and Tampa Bay game. As you can see, we have the pace in there. You can adjust these all you want. You can adjust the market shares. But as of this moment, the next update is coming on Friday evening on runthesims.com. But it doesn't look like Brashad Perriman is going to play whatsoever. So let's take him out of the player pool, and that is his market share of receiving yards. No word yet on whether or not Cyril Grayson is going to play, but he may be out as well. And as we saw a week ago against Philadelphia, Tyler Johnson was the one running with Mike Evans on most of these routes. So let's just bump him up to 15% of the market share right now. Maybe that's too much. We'll see. And actually, let's just make it a clean 16 to, well, let's be relatively let's play the downside a little bit. Actually, let's make it 12% in his target share of the market. 122, let's go 12%. There we are, 12%. That leaves us with 4% left over, and we'll just add that to Scotty Miller because he's probably going to see an increase in share time as well. Then we're going to run the Sims, and we're going to see what the Tyler Johnson over-under is for receiving yards in terms of a median projection. You can see optimal results for the week. Leonard Fournette, who is due to be back for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. There's no Prize Picks number on his receiving yards yet, although I would love those receiving yards if the number is spicy enough. We'll see what it is right now for Leonard Fournette. 5 catches on 6.1 targets, 35.5 receiving yards is going to be his median projection. I actually think he goes way over that number. So if it's anything below 35, I would play the over on that. But it's Tyler Johnson that I wanted to talk about in this regard. And where are you at, Tyler Johnson? Way down the list. Way down the list for Tyler Johnson. Or did I already pass him already? Let's see here. Just search Johnson. That makes things easier. So 3.6 catches, 41.9 receiving yards on 5.5 targets with only a 12% market share of the target. So we jump back over and go to receiving yards. All of a sudden, we'll try to find Tyler Johnson. Boom, 27.5. That's well below what we thought it was going to be. So you go over. Max play is 20. You play the power play, you win 60. But we can find some other ones that we like on this. This would be my 2 play if you want to just play the $20. I love this Tyler Johnson one at 27.5. I love the over at DraftKings Sportsbook as well, in terms of what you're going to see out of him in terms of the player prop. It's a little bit higher. I believe it's 31.5. Obviously, I still like the over on that as well. Rushing yards is the one that I wanted to get into. I like this Ryan Tannehill over 11.5 rushing yards. Four of the first 5 games of the season when everyone was healthy, that was Henry, Julio, and A.J. Brown, smashed this number over 4 out of those 5 games. So I'm going to play that one. I like the Josh Allen over of 46.5. Playoff Josh. He is another one who can go along for the ride and ends up crushing this number more often than not in playoff football. You see his yardage increase, you see his attempts increase. When there's no tomorrow, when Josh has to lay the body on the line, he is most definitely going to do that. So right now, if we just play the 4X power play, $20 pays $200. I think that's pretty good unless we can find another one in here that we really like. I like this Jamar Chase over, but at the same time, it's pretty close to where it should be. He's killed all these playoff teams. The higher the competition, the better Jamar Chase has been. Let's try to find maybe an outlier here in terms of yardage. We'll sort by yardage down. Devontae Adams, Mike Evans. The Mike Evans over is nice, but I'm not sure how they're going to play him, whether it's going to be with a high safety or shadow him with Jalen Ramsey. Hopefully, Ramsey doesn't end up on Tyler Johnson. Then we're in a world of trouble when it comes to hitting that over, but I don't expect that's what's going to happen. They'll try to move around players in the offense a little bit. If we just go to touchdowns overall, let's see. Josh Allen, I can't put 2 Josh Allens on the same card. I think I'm good with this 4 play. So we're going to have Patrick Mahomes over 0.5 passing yards. Tyler Johnson over 27.5 receiving yards. Ryan Tannehill over 11.5 rushing yards. Josh Allen over 46.5. You know what? Let's play the other one. There's one other one that I really like. It's this A.J. Dillon over 38.5 rushing yards. I just think based on game flow as a 5.5 point favorite on Saturday evening that the Packers are going to try to run the ball in frigid conditions as much as possible. And when they do that, primarily they use their bruiser to try to beat down the opposing defense. And that is A.J. Dillon over Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones is going to probably end up with more touches in this game, but he'll split that between his receiving totals and his rushing totals, whereas A.J. Dillon is primarily going to be the one who's used on the ground. So let's try that out. Let's go over. Now we have a flex play where we get $200 if we end on a $20 down on prizepicks.com. You win $200 if all 5 hit. If 4 hit, you still win $40 on that. And you do have the free square of Patrick Mahomes. Is this getting greedy? Obviously, this is getting greedy. I am still fine with that. Let's get greedy with a free square on the board. Those are going to be the 5 play for the week on prizepicks.com. Again, code MMN at first deposit. Get you a deposit match of up to $100. So you deposit $100, you get another $100, and it's available in way more states than sports betting right now. So if you got the itch to play some over-under fantasy props, prizepicks.com is where you want to go. Code MMN for that as well. Let's talk injuries for the week, and we'll just go team by team, game by game, starting off with Cincinnati and Tennessee. Derrick Henry is expected in for this game. Whether or not he's going to be 100%, I don't know. Probably not, I'm guessing, after breaking your foot and having a screw put in it in your first game back in less than 3 months. It would seem to me that maybe the unders of the play. I don't want to risk that with Derrick Henry, obviously, because I am terrified of the man. You can run through this sieve of a Bengals defense if you want. Fortunately, Trey Hendrickson is going to be back for the Cincinnati Bengals on the defensive line. That's more of a Ryan Tannehill type pressure thing. But either way, it's just good to have your best defensive lineman back, regardless of the situation. Same as the next game, San Francisco and Green Bay. Randall Cobb is expected back in this game, whereas Marcus Valdes-Scantling is expected out in this game. I'm not sure whether or not Cobb is going to be 100%, but he is first touchdown for Randall Cobb could end up being a play. When we look at some of the DraftKings plays this week, Randall Cobb could pop up there because of his touchdown upside and how he is used in the red zone when everyone and their mother and their father and anyone they've ever met in their entire life is just systematically working to make sure Devontae Adams doesn't catch a touchdown. All of a sudden, there's Randall Cobb completely by himself in the end zone. So Randall Cobb first touchdown or anytime touchdown could be a play here, especially with Marquez Valdes-Scantling out, with Lazard now probably being the deeper threat in this game in the speed option in the Packers offense. David Bakhtiari, not sure whether or not he's going to play. He is questionable on the Packers offensive line. Good news for the 49ers. Jimmy G's banged up, but he's going to end up playing. Fred Warner is going to play as well, and it appears like Nick Bosa is going to pass concussion protocol and play in this game. If you were wondering why the spread dropped from 6 to 5.5, I'm guessing it has to do with the Nick Bosa news in this contest. I mean, no Bakhtiari, Nick Bosa back in. If that ends up what ends up happening when the actives and inactives are released on Saturday, it's great news for the 49ers and their pressure rate. Fortunately, Aaron Rodgers gets the ball out so quickly that you're not going to have time for plays to develop down the field, theoretically, but Rodgers is still going to find the open man. I wouldn't worry too much about that when it comes to Aaron Rodgers. Tampa Bay and the Rams. Tampa Bay is entirely banged up. The spread has dropped from 3 to 2.5. Still like the Bucs in the situation. Leonard Fournette expected back. Ronald Jones likely out for this game in the Bucs backfield. Cyril Grayson is questionable in the receiving corps. Rashad Perriman is likely out with what they were calling a hip injury, but it turns out he had actually suffered an abdominal injury, tore something there, so he is likely out for this game. Tristan Wirfs on the offensive line and Ryan Jensen, the center, are both questionable right now. They are part of walkthrough, but not a part of the full practice. It seems like Bruce Arians is playing this very close to the vest in terms of who's going to be healthy and who is not. Now, if those two guys are out, it becomes a real problem against the Rams. I do think that both are going to play, however. But that's just a projection from me. Of course, you're going to have the injury report before the game start. You're not going to have the injury report before the DraftKings lineups lock on Saturday if you're playing the full slate. So be cognizant of that. Again, one of the other reasons that I really like the Leonard Fournette over receiving props once those are released, because I think that's going to be the option. We saw it with Gio Bernard last week. Bernard's on the injury report. He's going to play, but it's going to be Leonard Fournette in this backfield as long as the hamstring can hold up. Just the Bucs at home this year have been awesome. The Rams on the road have been a real dicey proposition. Flip the coin to see which one ends up showing up in that game. On the other side of the ball, it's really just Andrew Whitworth on the offensive line. He is questionable for the Rams. It would not be good news if he misses the game, put it that way. You don't want to be missing any of your key offensive linemen at this point of the season, especially when you have a team. I mean, it's not like the Bucs pass rush is amazing, but they can cause some problems in the backfield. Now, we know about Aaron Donald and the defensive line of the Los Angeles Rams. You're down 2 offensive linemen and your center primarily in that spot and your first-round left tackle. It is going to be problematic. So maybe play some defenses in those games if those guys end up being out for this contest. Buffalo and Kansas City, it's mainly from the Kansas City side of the ball. Darrell Williams has a toe injury. He's questionable to play. Clyde Edwards-Helaire and his shoulder injury is also questionable to play. If those two sit, obviously Jarek is in the absolute smash spot of the weekend, but I think that both those guys are going to end up going, thus creating a lot of difficulty in that backfield. Let's jump back over to runthesims.com right now and talk about the DraftKings picks for the week. Obviously, you're going to pick which game that you want to stack. It's probably going to be the Buffalo and Kansas City game. If I had to guess what most people are going to do, if you're playing one lineup, you probably want to get contrarian off that. Let's check out the optimizer right now. Once again, these projections are going to be updated Friday night and Saturday morning. And then again, once the first round of inactives, after each set of inactives, the optimizer will update itself in this game. So when we're just trying to figure out who the best points per dollar plays are on the board, you pick your stack and go with that. I actually don't mind the Tampa stack. Brady, Evans, Gronk, and even throw in Tyler Johnson there. It's the season of overloading. But points per dollar, Leonard Fournette ends up being the best play on the slate. If you want to end up fading the Bucs offense in terms of a game stack, Fournette at $5,700 comes in at a very cheap price. If you play him and Devin Singletary, then you can do things like play the Rams passing attack, play the Chiefs passing attack, and have these guys as your bring back. Since it's only a 4-game slate right now, I mean, it's not going to change on being a 4-game slate, obviously. But when you were on such a short slate with this, with only 8 teams to pick from, you don't really have to worry so much about playing a running back with playing receivers from that team. Obviously, it's not the most optimal thing you can do in terms of overall upside, but you really just want to overload on the games where you think a lot of the points are going to be. And as you can see, in terms of the over-unders, they're all right around the same in the first 3 games. Then you have Buffalo, Kansas City at 54. Right now, which is significantly higher, 5.5 points higher than the Rams and Bucs game. Now, if you can find the shootout game that's not that one, you're probably going to print money in this circumstance. It is worth noting that Tennessee against playoff team so far this year, the under is 5-2 in that regard. So that might be the one to stay away from. That's probably also the contrarian one to stay away from as well. You can see in terms of the running back, let's go all positions and see what's going on points per dollar. Brady and Allen rate out really highly, as does Matthew Stafford. If we're just going for pure flex play, let's take a look at the points per dollar. And you don't need to get great points per dollar on every single play on the board. And you can see even some of the pay up options are there. Cooper Kupp, Rob Gronkowski. I wonder if we just take I have my custom projections put in right now for my lineup. So if we optimize my projections, what are we going to see? We see Brady, Singletary, Fournette, Evans, Uzma as the tight end with Diggs in the flex and Tennessee's defense on the other side. You also have Randall Cobb. Once again, Randall Cobb, a great option to try to get some cheap production to try to score a touchdown. I actually really like that lineup. That's going to be a very popular lineup as it almost maxes out the entire salary. If you wanted to play it the other way, I know this optimal doesn't have any stacks in it, and then you can try to reverse engineer it if you wanted. Like this Ryan Tannehill lineup doesn't have any of his pass catchers involved, but if you want to get rid of Randall Cobb and Cooper Kupp, you could easily slot in A.J. Brown and Julio Jones for the similar price point if you really wanted to stack up and maximize what you're doing in that lineup. So that's just a few different ways that you can play it. We're trying to find like the cheapest options on the board in order to try to maximize some of our value here. You can see that, all the best plays are the best points per dollar plays because there's so much uncertainty. I do think that Tyler Johnson is going to end up being a really good points per dollar play. That's why, but I've also played the overs on him in player props and on prize picks, and maybe I don't need to lean that direction if I don't want to. Let's sort once again by points per dollar, try to find the cheapest guys who are available. And you can see it's going to take some scrolling. Randall Cobb, right now, the median base projection is 8.19 points with the ceiling projection of 16.5. It's all going to depend on touchdown outcomes for him. So Randall Cobb and CJ Uzma are the ones likely, at least in my projections, to be filling up the optimizer because their points per dollar are so good at $3,100 and $3,400 this week. But you could even look at something like Scotty Miller. If Cyril Grayson ends up sitting, that's a potential option. Someone like Mecole Hardman, who does have the ability to score on special teams as well. You can see some of these cheaper pass catchers for the Chiefs end up coming out pretty good here. Hardman and Pringle, both $4,200, $3,900. If you want to stack them up with Patrick Mahomes, I can get behind that. That makes a lot of sense to me. But I think that's going to be a very popular play in this regard as well, because that game is going to be so overloaded that people are going to be looking for the cheaper options from those games. What else do we have down here? Brandon Ayuk at $5,200. Really, since Elijah Mitchell has come back and George Kittle has been primarily blocking instead of route running, and Deebo Samuel's been taking these handoffs out of the backfield, it has been Brandon Ayuk who has been the primary pass catcher in the receiving game for the San Francisco 49ers. And as 5.5-point dogs, I know that they're going to run even when they're trailing. We know this. That if you want to take like three, here are really the four contrarian-ish options on the slate this week. Ayuk is one of them. Tyler Johnson is another. A.J. Dillon in the Packers' backfield would be another. Or Randall Cobb if you end up going with the receiving game for the Packers. I think those are the four players that I'm really targeting to try to mix and match throughout my lineups to give myself a little bit of leverage. Plus, you leave like $300 to $500 on the table. You're likely to be unique anyway on such a small slate like this. Once again, you want to get half off at runthesims.com. Use code Mayo at runthesims.com. $34.50 throughout the rest of the year. And you can even see when you jump in, depending on wherever you end up playing, if you use this DIY simulator, you can hop in, make your own custom projections for any slate, any game, each of the showdown slates, fourth quarter only, second half only. Doesn't really make a difference what you want to do. It's all there for you, and all the injuries and base projections are going to be updated after inactives are released for each of the games if you want the most up-to-date projections and information. Once again, runthesims.com, code Mayo if you want to get that 50% off discount, and prizepicks.com, code MMN for a deposit match of up to $100. Thank you all for watching. Let's win some money this weekend, all right? Or if not, just enjoy the games. I'll see you next time.